All right, guys. Welcome joining the uh, Velero community meeting in Beijing time zone. This will be the last one in the April, and we are, uh, according to the original plan, we are 2 weeks, a little more than 2 weeks away from the planned FC date. So first part of the status update. Recently, I've been working on the refactor of the backup deletion controller. I have a PR, and also I'm fixing some issue in the CSI plugin. It's mainly about how you sync the deletion of the volume snapshot content. Yeah. And I'm also reviewing some PRs from Shubang and other guys. So we're making progress to the FC. Next one, Yonghui, you want to update on your status?
Okay, I'm working on the copy integration POC2, and the target for POC2 is we integrated the result of the POC1 into the current Velero code, and we will have two paths. The first path is that is a legacy path that we use the Rustic, and we don't change that path. And we will add new paths, and that is we will call the copy uploader, and then call the unified repository interface, and finally call the copy repository. And after we finish the POC2, we will have a concrete design on the entire copy integration and replacement. Yeah, that's it.
So the output eventually will be a PR for the design that how we gonna replace Rustic with Copia, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Any question for Yonghui? Okay, next one, Ming.
Yeah, I've been working on refactoring Rustic repository control to QBuilder framework, and I've tested, and the PR has been submitted. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I took a look at that PR. I have a little comment. We don't have any test written. I don't see you make any test. I mean, I don't see you make any change to the test.
Because I either didn't find the test related before someone they have there's no test that have been read by others before.
Okay, I see.
If
yeah, let's go. Yeah, I think probably we should do some basic tests at least. It's a surprise that we don't have any tests for the Rustic repo controller.
Yeah, I will improve it.
Yeah. Shun, your status?
Recently, I'm working on first one is adding an insecure skip TLS verify flag for the integrated Rustic. For Velero version 1.8, the integrated Rustic doesn't support the insecure flag for the Rustic. So I updated version of the integrated Rustic and enable Velero to pass the flag to the Rustic. The second one is related to the CSI plugin. Some issues of it. Part of them, one of them is about the remove the duplicate snapshotting of the CSI backup, and another is add a metric related to the CSI snapshot attempt. And the other one is related to remove the volume snapshot taking during the CSI backup process. That's all.
So So I think as for the CSI, we planned the only one big issue is, I don't remember the number, but the one that we don't want to leave any volume snapshot resource remain after the backup is done. So we're gonna set the deletion policy to retain and remove them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Any question for Shun? Okay, one time.
Okay, I'm doing some refactoring for the pod volume restore controller with CodeBuilder and have submit a PR. The PR is under review. And the second thing is I'm trying to fix the issue that the REST controller doesn't pick up the ingress CRs after restarting. And I will some PR to introduce a short-term fix. The fix will try to mark all the in progress CRs as filled. Maybe we need a long-term fix, but the fix maybe need a well-designed and we may need more time for the long-term fix. And this update from my side.
So by the long-term design, you mean we want to pick up the in-progress CR, including the REST, backup and restore?
Yeah, maybe, but I'm not sure for now.
Okay. I want to check with like Scott and Feng, who has been working on Velero longer than I. Had there been any discussion or was this ever a goal for Velero that we should pick up the in progress backup and restore? I don't, by checking the code right now, I don't think it's an easy task. It may take a very long time for the refactor.
So I don't know in terms of historically whether, where this fit in the in terms of future goals. I think we all, from what I remember vaguely, and this is and maybe next time when Dave is on, he might have some insight here. But from what I remember, when this has come up before, I think it was one of these things where, the fact that we never pick up a backup that was in progress when on restart, it's kind of a, we recognize that the code doesn't do this now, but it's something that probably makes sense to tackle in a better way than just marking it as failed, especially in restore. I mean, I talked to Sean about this a little bit over the last couple of weeks, and he was kind of the opinion that we really, that interim fix that we have in place that I can't remember whether we merged it yet or we're going to merge it, but where we just mark it as failed is certainly an improvement over leaving it in progress. But the issue is, and again, that's not Restic, that's just regular Velero. But I mean, I think they're kind of related in the sense that basically right now, neither Restic nor Velero handle very well things in progress. And so I think the fix to mark it as failed is certainly something we need to do, because in progress confuses users, because they say, hey, I have all these backups in progress or all these Restic actions in progress, and I'm not seeing them finish.
Yeah.
So I think marking things that are listed as in progress as failed because we're never going to get to them again is an interim solution. But I think ultimately Velero ought to be able to recover from this, because one of the cases where this happens is, for example, with an automated, overnight backup, runs out of memory, the out of memory, bounces the pod, and people don't necessarily recognize that scheduled backup didn't happen. And if this happens several days in a row, they might have missed several backups in a row. And some way of retrying and restarting might make sense. I mean, again, this is where I was talking to Sean last week, not so much about Restic, but just in general. And for backups in particular, if we, the thinking would be we could probably do something that wouldn't be that difficult to say, when Velero restarts, the code right now that marks it failed, if we could determine, for example, that nothing was written to object storage yet, we hadn't gotten to that point. That means nothing has persisted from the previous attempt. So it should be safe to just start over. Obviously, if we've gotten to the point where we started writing to object storage and then we failed before it was completed, you'd want to fail that one, because you wouldn't have any reliable sense that you could, recover from a halfway written to disk backup. I think restore might be simpler because, you know, if you restore and it fail and you don't finish it, and then on restart, if you restarted the restore, for those resources that are already there, depending on this new functionality we're talking about, but the current Velero functionality is you're not going to touch them anyway, they're already there. So if you got, say, 50 out of 100 resources restored, and then on restart of Velero, you kind of kicked it again, then the first 50 of those that we'd had before just wouldn't get written. And the next 50 would get written, and then and this could be a configurable behavior too. You know, it's one of these things where, you know, there could be a server setting. You know, do you retry on restart or not? I don't know. That's something we would need to discuss and figure it out. But you know, the fact that Velero can't recover at all from something, you know, middle of a backup or middle of a restore pod, but because the Velero doesn't control the, you know, its pod necessarily. I mean, you know, there are various reasons why the deployment or the cluster could bounce the pod, and then we just lose that backup.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, but and it will be also tricky that if we, you know, the restore is halfway done and Velero restarted, we mark it failed, but there are some resources in the target cluster. And it will also be tricky for users to clean that up if market failed. But it will also, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, actually getting to the point where we want to restart or retry a backup or restore has got some edge cases we're going to have to work through. But the thing is that the status quo right now, what happens before this Rustic issue and before the Velero one, which I think that has been merged. I know it's been, at least I know I acted, but I don't know if anyone else did. The point is right now, if you bounce Velero, I'm meaning in 1.8, for example, if you bounce Velero with an in progress backup or restore, that backup or restore will never be completed. But if you do a Velero backup or restore get, it will show up as in progress forever, even though subsequent backups are running and completing. You know, when you restart the server, the pod, that backup is still in progress, or at least it's listed as in progress. It's not in progress. And then you submit a new backup, that backup is actually in progress. So the problem there is if a user goes to look at backups and you know, they want to look at what backups in progress, they see two that are in progress. One of them is actually running. The other one is just an old backup that never got cleaned up. And so the intent was for Velero and Rustic. I mean, this is the kind of the interim fix, is that we know that these are never going to complete. You know, marking them as failed so that the user sees that it didn't finish with the failure message to that effect, that it was, you know, in progress, you know, when the server goes killed, at least gives the user a more accurate view of what's currently happening without actually changing the workflow. We still aren't continuing backups after restart, continuing Rustic actions after restart. That's a kind of longer term future conversation to figure out how best to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Scott. And I also took a quick look at the milestone 1.9. It seems we have 32 closed, but still 38 issues open. I know from my perspective, I think we have been making progress in quite a few issues that remain open. But to close them all before our planned FC date may be a challenge. We'll keep you updated. We'll go through the issues, maybe move some of the issues out of 1.9 before the FC, and we'll keep you updated in the Slack channel, because the next community meeting in Beijing will be, I think it's around May 10. So the next meeting, when we have the community meeting, it will be less than a week for the planned FC date. So we'll see and keep you updated.
Just a quick comment on that. When you're going through those, I think it's important to make a distinction, because some of those that are, you know, not open may not have even been started, or may not be, you know, making big progress on. And so clearly those are the ones that you probably end up having to push. But some of the ones in progress may already have PRs, and the only thing holding them up is getting reviewed or getting corrections or whatever, you know, fixes in there. Some of those may actually have the implementation mostly done, but they haven't been reviewed, approved, and that kind of thing yet.
Yeah. So that's the next thing I want to discuss here in this meeting. So is Shubham in the meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, so any update in the PR regarding the resource policy and the selectors? I know I had some very late comment regarding the naming of the selectors, but I think we really need to distinguish like the singular and plural selector, even in the API and in the code. Otherwise, it's when I read the code, it's really confusing.
Yeah, I agree on that. For the restore policy, I'm almost done. I was testing some scenarios. I'll update it today itself. And for selectors, I was thinking let's go with the or label selector, the last comment which you added.
Okay.
And I'll add the. Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I was going to say on the restore policy. I think there was a comment that I had also last week that you were responding to as well in terms of fixing that.
Yeah, that's it. Other than that, I'll add UTs for selectors as well.
Okay. So first I don't think we have any strong disagreement regarding the design of the existing resource policy, right? A resource policy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, early on we had some comments, and there were some back and forth. There were some changes made, but I think at this point things have pretty much converged.
Yeah. So in the design, have you okay, so you only left the, have you clearly point out that we'll go with approach 1, that when we, the simpler one, that when you set policy, the Velero will try to patch the resource for the existing one. So is there somehow reflect
implementation details? I've only put implementation details regarding approach 1. So if you want, I'll add one note as well.
Yeah, you please just add one note, or just remove this approach 2 and 3. Either way is fine. Just when user read the design, things can be more consistent.
Yeah, I would suggest not removing them, but putting them in a separate section, saying we considered these, but they're out of scope now. But that way, because I think the approach 3 is something we might consider in the future if we need that additional. So it would be good to have this documented, but we need to be clear that this is not being implemented for this milestone. This is something we thought about. It might be done in the future, but the scope for this this release is just the approach 1.
Yeah, and for the selectors design as well, I'll update it with the name agreed. That is our label selector. Then can we merge those design PRs?
Yes, I think first thing, maybe hopefully by the end of this week we can merge this design PRs. And I think you asked me to review the selectors, the code training the selectors. We'll monitoring those one. And as for the existing resource policy code PR, I'm not sure who has been reviewing that. Please.
Scott has been reviewing that PR.
Yeah, I have. I'm not sure if there's a second one yet, but obviously we need the 2x. And I'll re-review it once he makes that other change that I requested. But yeah, if there's not a second reviewer yet, and I don't remember off the top of my head, if we need someone else, and just in case there's some other things that I missed, in reviewing that are needed to be fixed or changed. We'll need to get that pretty soon.
Totally.
Yonghui, since you've been reviewing the design, also will you take some time to review the code change for the existing resource policy?
I haven't.
I think.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know I'm on the review, but I haven't had time to work on that. I may be able to work on that late of this week or next early, after the vacation.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so that's a step. So Scott, you have or Fong, you have any update regarding the plugin versioning refactor? I think that will be a bit.
Yeah, I've been working on it in the background, but I haven't. I kind of got stuck on it a few weeks ago, and then I switched to another project. So I now I think I will try to get some time on it this week, so we can get at least some initial initial PR for you to look at. I'm not so cannot make a promise because we have quite a few things going on. So at least from my side, so I'm not sure if I can make any good progress this week. Yeah.
It sounds like this one may be at risk for 1.9, depending on how that goes in the next week or so.
Yeah, so actually my thought is if we can make sure that, or we don't need to really rush to try to make a lot of things before the 1.9 FC. It will be a lot of pressure on the PR review, and it will some pressure for the quality. If that happens, I would rather push the FC date or move things out. So I think it would actually be better if we can make decision that this one we are not going to merge in 1.9. So from you don't need to really rush or have a lot of pressure to work on that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I prefer if we don't have to make it in 1.9.
Yeah.
Could you push it off?
Okay.
And I'm gonna work
Yeah.
on the background.
Okay. Yeah, I would suggest in that case, then we still would like to get it merged basically as early as possible in the post 1.9. In other words, one of the first things we want to merge during that 1.10 development, because that'll give us time during that 1.10 time frame to start putting together the plan for what the V2s are going to look like. What do we need to add? Because that's one difference with this work versus the other two we just talked about, is because the other two things that Shubham are working on are actual user visible features that we have people, at least from the Red Hat side, that are interested in right now. And the Feng's work with the plugin versioning, we also have people that need that, but by itself it doesn't produce a user visible feature. It sets the groundwork for a future user visible feature. So if something has to get pushed, that one, no one's going to use this in 1.9 is the point. So if it gets finished, in the first part of the 1.10 cycle rather than the last part of the 1.9 cycle, that's not going to affect a whole lot of people.
Yeah. And another big thing is the upload progress monitor that's been working by Dave. I used to review that PR, left a lot of comments, but didn't have time to walk through them again. So my feeling is that as a whole, it's still at risk. Maybe we can merge some PR by Dave, but after that, there are something left. I'll check on, since Dave is not in this meeting, I'll check with him regarding the status. I'm curious, in addition to the VMware engineers that used to work with Dave on the upload progress monitor, Scott or Feng, do you know anyone from external maintainer have reviewed that design?
Off the top of my head, I don't.
Okay, it's fine. I'll think with them. I generally understand how it's going to work, but the tricky thing is they try to introduce a new type of plugin, which I think the vSphere plugin will be refactored to the new type of plugin. But since now I hear there's some new plan regarding the vSphere plugin, so first thing is he's trying to make some change to the framework to introduce a new type plugin without implementing any of this new type of plugin. So it's tricky to reveal like how things may work together, and I'll also think with Dev like what in his mind should implement this plugin and what's left if that PR is merged. Yeah. But my feeling is that one may be partially merged in 1.9, and there will be some additional work. I'm not sure they are still interested to work on them, but yeah, I'll sync with him and keep you updated.
Yeah, and also for the plugin versioning, in terms of what to review, I think one of the most important things we need to review in that is to make sure that this refactors things and it reorganizes things according to our plugin versioning design, but it doesn't break the functionality, because the goal here is to make sure we can refactor everything without losing any functionality. So all the end-to-end tests are still running, the use cases that are covered before. So basically, this change is going to be completely transparent to end users. everything works exactly like it did before with this refactoring in place.
Yeah, and I also want to suggest that for V1, we should either move everything to the new structure or leave it as is now, right? We don't want to have things half done.
Right. We want to move all the plugins. I mean, it might be done in multiple PRs, but from a release point of view, we want to release all the plugins in the new structure at once.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So any thing you guys want to talk about regarding this topic for the issues proposed by Red Hat and the phone has been working on? Okay, if no one, I think, do we want to take some time to discuss this data mover design by Shubham? Or we can have a separate meeting. What do you guys prefer? I know Sean and Dylan has been participating in the design discussion. Shubham, what do you think? Do you want to discuss it now, or we schedule another meeting to discuss it?
So are we targeting the design thing for V19? No, right?
Okay.
No, I'm asking, are we targeting it?
I think that's a flexible one for 1.9.
So
But I think you guys, I had some
yeah.
email or communication with Dylan, and it seems he has some
Yeah.
plan.
So
to,
Daniel, actually this design is not actually the total implementation design PR. This was something which we agreed upon, the use cases, the user workflow, and the requirements. So this was like a phase 1 design sort of thing. So that's why this PR is up. So we wanted to get agreement from all the stakeholders like VMware, Dell, Veritas, like they could get their eyes on this, and we could merge this, and then we could start designing the interface in the phase 2.
So do you want to merge this PR first, or it's just a work in progress?
We would want to merge this PR first if we agree upon all the things in this PR, which are not interface design related, but requirements and user workflow related and use cases related.
Okay, if that's the case, I think. But I still have some comment. Have you had a chance to take a look?
No, I'll take a look and I can sync up with you on Slack.
Okay. So my feeling is that at least to clarify something, if needed, we can have some Zoom meeting if needed. I know you guys prefer not having the meeting in the evening. It's okay. We have the meeting in the evening in Beijing time zone.
Okay, yeah, that works.
Yeah. So we can continue the async communication for this design in the.
I'll take a look at the comments which you left, and I can ping you on Slack then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any comment regarding the data mover design right now? But I just want to check, does it block any plan by Red Hat to deliver the feature?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
I mean, I heard from Dylan that he wants something to work for the OADP end user in the May or June timeframe. So
yeah,
are you
we
still
are
having that
targeting
plan?
CSI snapshot mover.
Sorry, please say it again.
So we were targeting CSI snapshot mover. So that was something Dylan might have mentioned to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're still on schedule for that. So you're without have a consistent API, you're gonna deliver that feature to the end user for OADP.
Maybe like a tech preview.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it will also be helpful in our discussion that you can demo the feature, how it works and
that would like act as a proof of concept for the interface, right? Like,
right. Yeah. but I think we had some internal reviewing, and also we also feel it seems that the current PR is half a user scenario and half a little tech detail. Yeah, so that is a little bit confusing to us. Please check this comment and let us know what you think, Shubham.
Yeah, sure thing. Do that first thing tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all from our side. So anything else anyone want to discuss? Okay.
I have a-
no.
Oh, hi. I have a question. I'm the first
Hi,
time
John.
joining the call. Hi. This may seem. Let me introduce myself. Give a little background. I'm John Sand. I work for DataStax, and I work on and a maintainer of a series of operator projects under the KateSander.io umbrella, and for primarily focused on orchestrating, maintaining Cassandra clusters. So the KateSander operator, which we released a 1.0 release earlier this year, provides multi-cluster support. Cassandra is a distributed, if you're not familiar, distributed out of the box with, and so multi-region is kind of, it's a primary use case. And so, to facilitate that implemented multi-cluster support. So we have part of the operator, we have backup restore functionality with another tool that we've integrated that's specifically focused on Cassandra. Is actually open source through Spotify, and but I had recently been started doing some prototyping with Velero. There's some features that we're trying to implement that Velero already has, like syncing the remote storage with objects in etcd, in terms of the source of truth, scheduled backups. So there's some things that, there's not total. There's some things that our backup tool does, but then performance-wise, it's a dramatic difference. So I'm very interested. I've done a little POC for our projects, and so something I'm going to continue with. So my use case here is a little bit odd in that right now, so Cassandra, there's a large number of Cassandra users with very large install bases not running in Kubernetes, and some of these users, for various reasons, cannot or won't at any time time soon migrate to Kubernetes. So we are exploring building out a basically it's not more than just an operator, but a management control plane that would run in cluster within Kubernetes, but managing Cassandra clusters that run outside of Kubernetes. And now under the primary API for any clients would be through Kubernetes. So everything would be CRD based. So even though that the Cassandra nodes will exist and run out of cluster, there will be custom resources to represent those. And one of the priorities that we need to address for this is backup restore. And while we have an existing backup restore solution, which was actually developed is a command line batch processing tool that runs, it's a Python tool that runs, wasn't designed for Kubernetes. While that could be used, I really want to explore Velero. So I asked on Slack, and somebody mentioned joining the meeting tonight. And now, I realized Velero was designed for Kubernetes. I've only looked at the code, just a little bit at the code base to answer some of my questions while I was working on my prototype. So, if there were plugins or hooks that could implement, things that, I'm certainly open to extending, various subsystems, if you will, if that would open up the possibility. But I'm not familiar enough with the project to know even if that is a possibility.
Yeah, there is actually Velero supports some kind of plugins like backup item action. First, I assume you have a basic idea like how Velero works, right? Just walk through this resource by calling the API server to serialize them and take snapshot for the PVs and bundle them together, upload to the object store as a backup, and they do it reversely in the restore. And in that process, you can write some plugin like the backup item action plugin. So to trigger your code when you see some particular resource. I think that one may be useful for you. And also there is some hooks on a pod basis. You can add, to the annotation of the pod. And so that you can trigger some, run some command within the pod before or after the backup or restore. I think those are some way to extend Velero's workflow that may be helpful for you. You can check the Velero's official website, and there is, I think the doc should be clear enough to help you understand how things work. If you have further questions, please reach out to us on the Slack channel.
Okay, what was the first one you mentioned? The backup, what was it?
Backup at, let me type it in this chat.
Okay.
Backup item action. Well, example is that when Velero serializing the resources, when he sees the pod, he try to add the PVC and take snapshot for the PV. That is the source mounted to the pod. So that's
Okay.
one usage of this plugin. Just check the code or see the doc. But writing this plugin is a little tricky because it's a gRPC plugin and based on the Go plugin framework. So.
Okay, well I'll take you at your word, but with our I think with what we're going to be doing, there's probably going to be a lot of gRPC, and with our existing backup restore solution, the calls are made. It's not, there's some inefficiencies. We have to run a sidecar container that for the backup service, and it makes talks to our operator over gRPC, and it's specific. So I'm only interested in backing up the PVs and PVCs, but I did some. Like I said, I've got that prototype work with enough of the solution working with Velero, and with a multi-cluster prototype. So to makes it even better. So when I get a chance, then maybe I'll write up a blog post of doing multi-cluster backups for Cassandra with Velero. So you can keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Keep us updated. Thanks.
Yeah. So okay, I'll be probably hopefully in the coming days, weeks, lurking some more on the Slack channel, and maybe with some more questions to see how feasible this is. So I appreciate you taking the time to explain that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye.
All right, bye. So okay. In addition to that, anything else anyone want to discuss? Okay, so then we're gonna wrap up. Thank you guys for joining, and we see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you.